And now here's this episode of Beyond the Books with your host, Alex Chong.
Today's forecast, 37 degrees under partly cloudy skies. Perfect conditions for a podcast. Hello, everyone. My name is Alex Chong. Welcome to season 2 of Beyond the Books. We have finally made it to season 2. Had a little bit of a break. School got in the way, life got in the way, but we are back. And boy, do we have an amazing guest to kick off season 2. When doing some research on this person, there was a lot to fill out the sheet. So I think we'll have plenty to talk about during the next hour or so. If you want to see the pictures and everything else that I'm using during this interview, go to the YouTube version of this podcast. Go to www.youtube.com and in the search bar, search Beyond the Books Austin, and you'll be able to find it there. So without further ado, coming from the great city of Kokomo, Indiana, everyone please give a round of sound for Austin Dukes. Austin, how are you?
Hey, Chong, I'm good. How are you?
Good, man. All right, Austin. So we have one mission to complete during this next hour or so. Would you like to hear it?
Yeah, tell me about it.
All right, man. So today's mission is that we're going to prove that you, Austin Dukes, are more than just a medical student. How does that sound?
That sounds amazing. That's what I would like to be true. So let's do it.
That's true. All right, let's do it. Are you ready for the first question?
I hope so. Let's see.
All right, let's do it. So you grew up in Kokomo and you went to Western High School, and you had quite a list of accomplishments during your time at Western High School. You were on the baseball team. We'll get back to that later. You were on prom court, I think, in your senior year, which is pretty cool. And you also did some tennis, I saw as well. But what I really want to start with is actually the very end of your high school career when you give a salutation speech to your class. And the reason I want to start with this one is it true that you had a mullet during your salutation speech?
Yeah, this is the first skeleton to come out of the closet. Yes, that is completely true. And there's the picture that captured it that they had in the newspaper. I was extremely proud at the time. I'm not necessarily ashamed now, but I'm not sure I'm quite as proud as I was then. But you can see the glimmer in my eye that I was really excited about rocking that mullet.
So what's the story here? Like, why a mullet? Did someone push into it? Were you just feeling the mullet, or like, what's the story here?
So it was a baseball thing. So each year before the state tournament, all of us would cut our hair, usually into kind of the same haircut, but always kind of a ridiculous haircut. And so, I mean, it's kind of a high school baseball thing anyway, to grow your hair out and rock the flow, as we would say when I was 18. And so I'd been growing my hair out for many months at this point and just ready for someone to say the word mullet. And so come state tournament time, I chopped off the top, and it's actually probably longer than you can even tell there, but it's really kind of hitting the back of my neck. And the reason I still had it at that time, I guess this proud plug for my high school baseball team, was that we were still in the state tournament at the time. So in my senior year, we lost in semi-states, the round right before the state championship. And we were playing that semi-state game like 3 or 4 days after high school graduation. So I couldn't cut my hair when we were playing so well. So I had to do it.
Was there any pushback from any of your family or extended family of wearing the mullet, or were they pretty supportive of
it? Great question. There was definitely pushback. I think, as most grandmothers are, my grandmother was not particularly keen on seeing her grandson on stage with a mullet. My dad mostly thought it was funny. My mom, I think, was just happy to support me in whatever I was doing. But my grandma in particular, I mean, she was kind about it and we laughed about it, but it was very clear that she would have preferred me to have cut that ahead of time. I think they understood too, though, with the baseball thing, that it just wasn't going to happen.
Gotcha. How was it preparing for a salutatorian speech? Did you find it, because it's pretty open-ended, right? So it's like, okay, what do I say? What do I mention? Or like, did the school kind of script it out for you?
It was totally unscripted. I mean, we had the freedom to say whatever we wanted for however long we wanted. And if you had the video, you'd know that I was pretty nervous. You can see that water bottle in front of me in the picture. And first thing I did when I got up there was grabbed it, and my hand was shaking,
Oh
taking a drink of it.
no.
But I think it went pretty well, as well as a 18-year-old high school senior speech could have gone. I spoke probably a little bit more quickly than I would have if I had realized how quickly I was speaking. But I think overall it went well. I kept it pretty short, and the superintendent afterwards told me it was one of the best speeches he'd heard in his 10 years as superintendent. So I was really proud of that, and still kind of proud of that.
No, that's awesome. I mean, I see you have the cap in your hand, so all you have to do is just take off the cap, just show the mullet, and that's memorable enough, isn't it?
That definitely broke the ice well. I was really nervous. I had a few jokes in my speech, and that was actually the first one, was me showing off my mullet. And I was
Mhm.
like, oh God, I hope this goes well. But people laughed, fortunately, and that
Good,
helped me to feel calmer.
good, good. And then you're saying this is related to your baseball career, right? Because semi-state was a couple weeks after. So let's
Yeah.
actually dive into your years in baseball for a little longer.
Yeah.
Could you just talk about first, how did you start getting into the sport of baseball in the first place?
I come from a family that is pretty into athletics. My dad was a high school basketball player in particular. He played several sports, but that was his kind of main sport. My mom was a high school swimmer, and they always encouraged us to be really involved in sports. And so, I played t-ball for the first time when I was 5, and by no means was my dad or my mom or anyone really pushing me to fall in love with baseball, but it ended up just being the one that I liked the most. I tried out soccer, basketball, football. As you know, I eventually went on to play some tennis. I swam, but nothing really struck me quite like baseball. And in terms of why, I'm not really sure why. I think that it came to me a little bit more naturally than some other sports did. I think it was nice as a young asthmatic that I could get a relief from running sometimes, as opposed to soccer, where I was just reaching for the inhaler pretty consistently.
Oh.
And in baseball, it's a little slower pace, and I think it came to me naturally. And lefties have a bit of an advantage in baseball too, and I think that was something that I enjoyed, feeling like it was a sport where I had an upper hand at without really trying. I think that was kind of a neat thing that drew me to it. And yeah, as you know, it kind of sparked a love and a fairly long-term career, 5 to 18. So it was something that
Wow.
I definitely cared a lot about.
Wow. So 13 years of it.
Yeah, that's right. Um,
Awesome.
from t-ball through all the little league years, which is like 9 to 12, and then carried on into some more kind of intermediate leagues, and then high school from like 14 to 18, and a few summer leagues in between.
Awesome. And I took a look at the program for the state's finals year during your junior year, which we'll talk about in a second. And I saw, were you always a pitcher, or did it was there like kind of a journey to get you to that pitcher position?
Yeah, I think that because I was a lefty, I was kind of pushed to pitch from an early age. That's a position in particular where you can have a bit of an advantage by being left-handed. So, and I also just think that, especially when you're young and in little league, they kind of push the people that have a bit of a more natural knack for throwing baseball to pitch, because they need someone to throw strikes at the age of 9, right? So if you're able to do that, then you're in. So it kind of sprung from there. But I've never been a particularly large guy, but when I was young, I was a little tyke for sure, and
Mhm.
so I didn't throw the ball very hard, and so I kind of had to develop some skills to locate the ball well. And what I really became known for was my knuckle curveball, which I was super proud of, and that kind of carried me all the way through my high school career. That was my go-to pitch forever and always. But I pitched up through my junior year, and then I had a really what I felt like was a really good field position playing summer and hitting summer. And we had really good pitchers already, better pitchers than me. And so I told my coach my senior year that I was done pitching, and so I could focus on being an everyday fielder, which isn't a decision I regret at all. But I also loved my years of pitching too.
Yeah. I mean, you're a pretty good hitter too. You're hitting Well, according to the program, you're hitting like 0.300 or something like that, which is pretty good, Austin.
Thanks, man. Yeah, that must have been my junior year. My senior year was not quite. I had a bit of a slump, but but my junior year, I was a pretty good hitter with some limited time, and that kind of went nicely into that summer between junior and senior year where I hit the ball really well, and that's kind of what gave me the confidence to say I'm just not going to pitch anymore because I'm feeling pretty good about my fielding and hitting. And I remained what I think of was a really good fielder my senior year. My hitting took a little bit of a hit.
And you mentioned your coach, which is kind of my next question, because I think this is a pretty cool story, in my opinion, when I was kind of looking it up. So your junior year, that was the year that Western High School, go Panthers,
Yeah,
won the state 3A championship. So it was a pretty special year in Russiaville, Indiana. And your
yeah,
manager or skipper, I don't know what they call it in high school, but Ty Calloway was your guys' manager, and he was there since 1978. I was shocked to see that in the program. So this
yeah,
was his at the time, 2013, his 35th year managing. And I believe I saw too, this is the first time you guys made it to the state finals.
yeah.
So obviously a very special year for this team and your manager. And like, while I know your manager will probably be happy no matter what, he's happy to just be managing the team, right?
Yeah.
What was it like being part of the team that finally got uh, manager Callaway to the state finals and finally over the edge to win the championship as well? What was that like for you guys?
It was a pretty awesome experience. I think in particular, there's a lot of things about it that made it so neat. What you don't know is that we kind of started the year off really poorly. We started the year off, I think, like 2-6 or something like that, and then went on like a 23-1 run. Um,
Wow.
and in addition to that, the year before this season, when we did win the state championship, was probably without argument the best high school baseball team Western had ever had. We were playing like 8 seniors in 2012, of which like 4 or 5 went on to play college baseball. It was a very, very talented team that went undefeated throughout the season. They were like 23-0, 24-0, and then got shocked and lost in the first round of the state tournament. And then we lost all those seniors. So this team that went on to win state was not one that was really expected to do as much as we did. I mean, we still had a lot of talent behind those seniors, and I think people knew that. But having lost like 8 of your 9 starting position players on a star-studded team, it just wasn't expected that we would actually perform to this level. So I think that was really neat too. That it wasn't even expected that we would do this. And I think a lot of our success kind of came from our camaraderie. We had a really well-connected team. And it was really cool too. I mean, you could tell the emotion for Coach Callaway that this meant so much to him. You know, in addition to him coaching Western for so long, he played for Western in his high school days. This is where he grew up and where his love for baseball kind of developed. He'll always tell you that he was the starting shortstop in 8th grade back when they'd let you middle school players play on the team. And so you just knew that it meant so much to him. And it was really neat to bring him that because even if we hadn't gotten it for him, you know, it was clear that his career was ending, you know, in the next couple of years. So it was really cool to kind of be able to bring him what I know was the capstone of his career. And it was it was funny too. I'll never forget this. So my junior year, I expected that I would be a starter, and I actually got kind of usurped by a sophomore who worked a little harder than I did. But that's okay. I don't blame him for that. Truly, if I was playing, maybe we wouldn't have won. But you know, I got my time with, you know, pinch running and pinch hitting, doing a little bit here and there. But it was funny because at the end of the game, I remember we all rushed the field, and then I like happened to find Coach Callaway, or just kind of run into him and be like, "Coach, we did it," you know. And I'll never forget, he gave me this huge kiss on the cheek that I was so not ready for. And I was like, what just happened? I got in this game to pinch run. I think like I wasn't even like a major contributor. I wasn't a senior. Like we had like a fairly close relationship, but nothing crazy. And he just like grabbed me by the face and kissed me on the cheek. And I was like, okay, coach. Didn't think we were that close.
I mean, the guy's been working at this for 35 years.
Yeah.
They finally got, and you guys, it finally came through.
Yeah. But after he kissed me on the cheek, he eventually went over to his fence and kissed his wife through the fence, which was way cuter than giving me the kiss on the cheek. But I'll never forget that moment. I was like,
That's hilarious.
whoa.
Oh my goodness. And yeah, I think, was it true that your senior year was his last year managing, I say? Because I think he managed for a total of 36 years.
Yeah, I think that he was kind of riding out the possibility that we would end up winning another year, because it was definitely within the realm that we could pull it off. And so I think that's why he decided to take it one more year. There were definitely several key seniors on that 2013 team, but most of the players that were starting were juniors or sophomores, and both of our pitchers that we rode through the tournament were a sophomore and a junior. So he knew there was a chance for us to do it again. So he wanted to ride that out, and then left the reins on to someone else.
Gotcha, man. Well, what an awesome accomplishment that you guys did. And what a memory too, to have that kind of season, especially after a slow start like that. And you guys had to
Yeah.
come together, figure out what's going on. And then you guys came back and went all the way to championship and won it for a longtime manager like that. What an awesome experience.
Thanks. Yeah, it definitely was pretty memorable and amazing. And I mean, uh, it's not going to be what I don't know. You can say what you want about high school sports. I don't want to hold on to it too tightly, but no doubt at 17 years old, that was a really awesome experience, and one that I'll always reflect fondly on and be proud of.
Gotcha. And not only were you a baseball player, but you're also a big baseball fan as well.
It's
We are
true.
not going to mention which. I'm just kidding. You're a Cardinals fan. You're a I'm a Cubs fan, by the way. If you guys who don't get why I said that.
Yeah.
So you obviously are a huge baseball fan as well, and I think as an ex baseball player, I do want to ask you, because the game of baseball today is changing a little bit. There's different rules in order to kind of speed up the game, such as like how many hitters must a pitcher must face. There's talk of this like clock going on there,
Yeah.
and all this kind of things. So I mean, as a fan, it could be understandable that that might be better because it makes the game go faster and that. But as a player, if you were put in those kind of conditions, especially since as an ex-pitcher,
Yeah.
what would be your reaction to these kind of I guess not only a rule change, but kind of a culture change as well?
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting question. I think that the pitch clock is one that um, is interesting because it probably won't be controversial to anyone but pitchers. Like it's going to be great for the league. Fans are going to like it better. It'll speed up the game, and baseball does need that. It's ratings have certainly died in recent years as people have moved on to faster paced games. But pitchers, who are some of the most particular people ever about their routines, and after each pitch doing the exact same thing. Um, some of them that have longer routines are not going to like it. And how would I feel? I was never one that really took too much time between pitches, so it wouldn't bother me. And I think, it's hard to remove my perspective of a now fan who is for this change. But I think I would see the bigger picture that, more than loving pitching, I just love the game of baseball, and want the game of baseball to be as successful and marketable as possible. And um, I would want to support whatever changes are necessary to make the game more marketable again, and to make kids be as interested in it as possible. It's not as though it's a dead sport or anything at all, but certainly football and basketball have overtaken it. It was the great American pastime, but it's no longer America's favorite sport by any means. And so I think whatever strategies can be done to kind of increase its popularity again, I think that I would be for as a pitcher. Um, and selfishly as a pitcher, if what I'm wanting is a long-term career that's going to make me really wealthy, well, if we can get more fans to the games, then I might be able to get paid more. So I think I'd be for it.
Gotcha. One more question about your perspective on baseball here. So, for an example, another sport, football, they've been making a lot of rule changes to benefit the offense by
Yeah.
being a lot more harder. I mean, it's safety aspect too, but they're making rules that are a lot harder for defense players to play, which is kind of the reason why we've been seeing the uptick of scoring recently in football. Going back to baseball, do you believe that today's rule changes or today's playing environment, does it better benefit the hitters, or do you think it better benefits the pitchers?
Yeah, I think for the most part, benefits it probably benefits the hitters more. I think the only area where the defense is kind of getting a benefit uh, would be like with the use of like video review of plays, because there are a lot of like bang bang plays that in real time, it looks as though a player's safe, and then if you look at it under a microscope, you might see that his arm slipped off for a microsecond while the tag was on, and then he's out. So I think that that is one where probably the defense is favored, but I think rushing the pitcher, that's a benefit to the hitters by introducing the pitch clock, or like you kind of mentioned, where now a reliever has to face multiple hitters. This is probably getting too far into baseball strategy, but a lot of times in the past, you want to bring a relief pitcher in to just face one hitter and then get him out of there because the next matchup's bad. So now if he has to face two, that's definitely a benefit for the hitters. And I think the most controversial potential benefit for the hitters that was discussed this year was there's a lot of controversy over whether the balls got changed out for balls that fly further, and that's why we saw an uptick in home runs. If that's true, that certainly has benefited the hitters, but tough to say if that is true or not. But more offense is better for fans, so it's probably better for baseball too.
Gotcha. Well, hopefully a better season for the Cubs and the Cardinals next season. Not feeling great about the Cubs. I think they're kind of blowing up the team. They're like semi blowing up the team, which is always a little uncomfortable. So not feeling great, but how do you feel about your Cardinals?
I think they'll probably be okay. They're definitely not a World Series team, in my opinion. I wish that we would have held on to Randy Arozarena, who went to the Rays and became a star. We traded him away for next to nothing. But we'll probably remain a like competitive team, one that might sneak into the postseason potentially, but probably won't make a substantial run. I think we'll be just okay still.
Gotcha. All right, Austin, ready to get out of high school?
Yeah, let's do it.
We spent like 24 minutes on high school. That's fine, but whatever.
I guess I love high school.
All right, let's move on to college. You went to Wabash. Is it Wabash College or Wabash University? I keep forgetting.
Wabash College.
Wabash College. Right. Okay. Class of 2017. Yeah. And you were also doing a ton of stuff there as well. There was a long list of stuff that I found. You did Global Health Initiative. You did Best Buddies. You're a part of the Beta Fraternity House. You're in Space Club, which is a pretty big deal at Wabash as well. But the club I do want to ask you about, because I read in The Bachelor, which is like the newspaper there, which, by the way, hilarious title, The Bachelor. There was an article where I don't know if you remember this interview, you and Kyle Stucker were interviewed for an article about how you guys were like really good friends and stuff like that. And during your time there. But there was one line that stuck out to me that I really do want to ask about.
Oh, God.
It says that you guys started chemistry club because you're a chemistry major. You started chemistry club kind of as a joke. Can you kind of explain that a little bit more?
Oh, man. I'm not sure if I can or I can't. I was definitely riding on Kyle's coattails on that. That was more of his thing than mine. I'm trying, honestly, to remember any events that we did. I don't think that we did a ton. I know that we did one like liquid nitrogen ice cream event thing for like incoming potential recruits. Like that was something we did. They would try to have like certain clubs do little things for high school seniors to draw them in. We made some liquid nitrogen ice cream. I definitely remember that.
I mean, it's a pretty good marketing strategy, honestly.
Yeah. And we kind of stole that idea from like, it wasn't even the chemistry club. It was just the chemistry department did that when I was an incoming, when I was like a high school senior, and I was like, this is pretty good ice cream. So I don't think that's exactly why I went there, but it didn't hurt. Yeah, it was definitely not the most impactful club that I was a part of in my my 4 years there. Gotcha. But Kyle Stucker, is a fourth year med student now, and him and I definitely did a lot of things together, and we're good friends, and definitely had a lot of good memories with Kyle, although I can't really remember the ones from chemistry club super well right now.
That's all right. Let's move on to this question then. So all these clubs that you did together, I mean, co-founder of chemistry club, but along with that, like you're in a fraternity, you're a part of Sphinx Club, which is a huge time commitment for Wabash people, and many other clubs. Best Buddies is going to take a while too.
Yep.
I guess my main question is, what helped you made you go so much during in Wabash? Because you're doing a ton of stuff, and let's not forget, you're there for an education as well. And may I
Yeah.
say, it's a pretty hard major.
Yeah. No, you're definitely right. And it's a school that I definitely found to be challenging academically and has that reputation. I think what really helped me to kind of keep going though is just the guys around me. I think there's a culture there that um, um, where people are really pretty driven and are trying to do a lot. And in particular, in my pledge class, there were a lot of guys who were really doing a lot of things, and I wanted to kind of stay up to speed. You know, it felt like the standard was really high, and I loved that. I think that was really helpful to push me to out of my comfort zone to kind of do some of the things maybe I wouldn't have felt comfortable doing. For example, you kind of mentioned best buddies, and I didn't have any experience with Best Buddies. I wanted to get involved with it at the beginning of my freshman year, and the club had kind of died. The leadership was kind of failing, so we didn't really have anything going on. Um, and the like academic advisor of that club knew me personally. We were had a good connection, and she just saw that my name was on the listserv of people who wanted to be interested in it, but didn't have the opportunity to do it because it wasn't really existing. And she just asked me if I wanted to restart it. And I didn't know what I was doing at all, but I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'll give it a shot. You know, someone's got to, and why not me? I guess. You know, and I don't think that I would have had the confidence to just give that a try and put myself out there with something I have no experience in, and that I really wanted to see be successful. Had I not kind of been in a culture of guys where lots of people were putting themselves out there and doing things that they hadn't done before in efforts of seeing something through that they wanted to accomplish. I think that inspiration and that culture from the guys around me was really helpful to keep me going.
Yeah, I think the expression's what, iron sharpens iron or something like that.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's awesome that you were put in a good environment like that, that kind of encouraged you to seek things that maybe you have an inkling of interest in, but why not just kind of dive into it and see how it goes from there.
Exactly. Yeah, there was a lot of that going on at Wabash for me. It was definitely a period of growth for sure that I'm really grateful for.
Gotcha. But guys, don't worry. Austin was not just working and just doing clubs and getting good grades and all that stuff. Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of fun to be had at Wabash as well. And one particular week that I do want to ask about is something called the Monon Bell Week.
Yeah.
Could you kind of explain to those of us who are not familiar, what is Monon Bell Week?
So Monon Bell Week. So we should probably just talk about the Monon Bell real quick first. So um, there's another college not so far away and fairly similar in size, although technically double in size because they include the female population in their in their college, called DePaul. And that is our big rival and has been for
And just a reference, Wabash is an all-male college. I'm trying to make sure
yeah
you don't get canceled. Yeah. So yeah,
yeah
Wabash is an all-male college for those of you
yeah
who just as a reference point there.
yes yeah sorry I should have made that clear.
It's okay.
Um, but yeah, so we have a big rivalry between us and DePaul, and it existed for like over 125 years now. This Monon Bell game where we play a football game, and the winner takes home this bell, and it's an old train bell that um, is a huge source of pride to have on campus uh, throughout the year. So Wabash is a place where we're kind of proud of Wabash anyway, and so to have that bell to say that we were better than DePaul that year is something that we love and kind of thrive on. So anyway, Monon Bell Week is the week that leads up to the Monon Bell game between Wabash and DePaul. Um, and so during that week, there's a lot of tradition and kind of fun things that go on. In particular, there's like guarding of the bell if you have it on campus. So the week leading up to the Monon Bell game, the bell is supposed to be ringing constantly, and I mean
Oh.
every minute, like it's not supposed to stop.
And
And
it's not
those that are in
automatic, right?
no, correct. Yeah, it's a handheld crank
Oh my
bell.
God. Okay.
Uh, and so you're hearing that for 168 hours straight.
Oh goodness.
um, and so those that are in charge of that are you can sign up for it if you're not in a fraternity, but otherwise it defers to the fraternities, and typically the freshman pledge classes are in charge of keeping that going,
Okay.
which actually was super fun. I mean, I
Uh-huh.
loved that. I was trying to build relationships with these guys in my pledge class, and sitting out at night and I'm kind of in the cold and taking turns slowly ringing this bell. It just builds camaraderie, and it's a fun experience to kind of reflect on. And unfortunately, we ring it quietly during the night and during class, so it's not like overly bothersome.
I was
But
gonna say, just imagine like a bell just blaring like
yeah,
every single waking hour of the weekend. It's like that sounds horrible.
I mean, it's super loud. I mean, you can hear it for I don't know how far, but all of campus easily.
Mhm.
So, but it's also a cool reminder and source of pride that we had the bell from last year too. So we hold on to that pretty tightly. And then there are a few other things too, like you paint the bench, which is this really old bench that sits in the middle of campus that different organizations or fraternities will paint in accordance with whatever their prerogative is. So, Beta would paint it Beta colors, and Fiji would paint it Fiji colors, or during this particular week, we would usually just paint it red to kind of signify, I guess, entire campus unity. So that was also kind of a big deal that would happen throughout the week. And then if you don't have the bell, so if we lost the year prior, there's always a small group of people who will consider making an effort to go steal the bell from DePaul, which DePaul people don't love. I never participated in that. I was never involved in a heist. But DePaul people have really cracked down on that in recent years. The most recent heist was like 2 years ago or something like that.
Mhm.
And they were actually really close to being successful, but then DePaul took like legitimate legal action against the students.
Oh my gosh.
So
That's a lot.
yeah. So they're a little uptight, I'll say about that, which I understand too. But
Yeah.
yeah, those are kind of the big things that I think about in the week leading up. But it's a lot of fun.
So I guess my curiosity question, let me pull up a picture of you two because this is a nice picture of you. Is this during Monon
Thanks.
Bell week? Was it just a different week?
So this is during chapel sing, which is not during Monon Bell week, but Wabash has a lot of traditions. And this is another one that is probably will sound bizarre from the outsider perspective, but is really kind of cool from the insider perspective, where we have this fight song that is the longest fight song in the nation. It's like a 2.5 or 3 minute fight song, and it was written in like sometime in the 1800s. I want to say like the 1850s. And so the lyrics are pretty intricate and use a lot of verbiage that is not super common to our language anymore. So it's
Okay.
actually kind of challenging to memorize. It takes a fair amount of work to really memorize it well. But it is like the responsibility of the freshmen on campus, and technically, the freshmen that are not in fraternity houses can't be held to this standard, but all the freshmen in the pledges in fraternity classes are held to the standard of memorizing the song, and then they sing it for an hour outside on the mall, an hour straight. And during that time, members of the Sphinx Club, of which I was in, go around and listen to and monitor them for whether or not they're singing the song properly or not. We'll try to distract them to make it more difficult for them to sing the song properly. And if they sing the song improperly, we take them inside the chapel and have them sing it there free of distractions, but on their own. And if they're successful, there are no consequences. But if they fail, then the tradition has kind of changed, but traditionally you would get a W if you fail. You'd have a W painted on your chest, kind of like the one on mine, but it would be a red W on a white t-shirt. They've changed the tradition to where now everyone gets a W if you are successful, and if you fail, you don't get a W. But either way, you have some sort of marking on you to indicate that you were that you failed to sing the song correctly, which I don't know. The outsider might think that seems harsh,
Uh-huh.
but I don't know. I really enjoyed my chapel singing experience and found it really cool to kind of engage in such a long-standing tradition. And they have, kind of slowly over time tamed it down and made it more of a I don't know, a symbol of campus unity and of campus pride, as opposed to a form of like individually pointing out a person's failures or anything like that.
And
So
that that kind of leads to my next question too. I guess my biggest curiosity is like you mentioned a lot of traditions. You mentioned the bell ringing, you mentioned the bench painting, you mentioned the chapel singing. Why was it so important for you personally to uphold these traditions at Wabash?
It's a great question. And I think that it's really just kind of built into the culture. It feels like when I was a freshman, the people that I looked up to the most and that uh, I don't know, I respected the most really respected these traditions and found it um, to be a neat thing to engage in. I think that that kind of was something that I caught on to, that, the people that I liked and respected and looked up to were holding on to these things. And so I guess I will. And then over time, I think that grew to be more of just kind of a respect for the connection that it kind of gave me to the people of the past that had kind of gone through Wabash. It became a bigger thing for me of just kind of being neat, knowing that people in the 1920s were doing this exact same thing, which has, you know, objectively no meaning, but subjectively has a lot of meaning to connect me to people who have kind of gone through this college and moved on as well. I just think that became something that was really kind of near and dear to my heart as the college became more near and dear to my heart.
Yeah, and it's pretty cool to uphold traditions that have been around for almost 100 years, and just to kind of keep the sayings that the founders kind of did, or I don't know if it was the founders, but like the people of the past, kind of to keep it going. And even though it may look silly, as you mentioned, or it doesn't quite make sense from the outside, I don't know. There's this fire that kind of keeps going. It's like a campfire that keeps
Yeah,
going. Like you kind of want to keep the camp. You don't want to be the class that puts it out, I guess.
exactly.
And yeah, it's pretty cool. And
Yeah.
guys, yeah, Austin had a pretty awesome Wabash 4 years there. And before we move on, I do want to mention too that like you did win or you earned the John Monroe Butler Prize for Scholarship and Character, which is like one of the highest honors that any Wabash student could meet. So that's pretty awesome that you had a very productive is not the right word. Very fulfilling 4 years, I guess, is in the years that you were there. Um, but I do want to move on to another saying that was also very fulfilling for you in these recent years. Remember when I didn't realize, I didn't even remember this memory of us. But one of the first things that I commented on one of your Instagram photos, you're talking about a certain camp in
Oh,
Gypsum. I think Gypsum is the right, that's how you say it,
yeah.
Colorado. And I commented, and you were saying that like, oh yeah, you were saying that like, oh, if I've never talked about it before, like here's why I enjoy camp so much. And I put
Yeah.
down, oh yeah, you never talked to me about camp before, like kind of as a joke. And you're like, oh, you opened such a door. So let's open this door right
Let's
now
do it.
to Roundup River Camp. Is that no Roundup River
Roundup River Ranch.
Ranch?
It's a
Thank
tongue
you. I can't
twister
read my
for
hand.
sure.
I can't read my
It's such a tongue
handwriting.
twister.
Yes, Roundup River Ranch. Let's talk about that camp first. But can you just give a brief 60-second explain? Well, I guess it's impossible to explain it, isn't it? Just a brief like intro. What is this camp? Who is it for? How long is it? What do they
Yeah.
do? Those kind of things.
I can do that for sure. And, I think you probably can tell from that last bit that Wabash is really near and dear to my heart, but I would say that this place is even more near and dear to my heart. This is like my favorite place on earth. So Roundup River Ranch is a summer camp dedicated to kids with serious illnesses. So kids in age range from 7 to 18, and also sometimes their family members come out to this beautiful, large facility in the heart of the Rocky Mountains and get to just spend a week connecting with kids that are like them. So we have weeks that are dedicated to particular diseases or conditions. So for example, we have like a cardiac week in which only kids come out who have serious cardiac conditions. So have needed like cardiac transplant or serious cardiac surgery. And they get to spend a week doing a lot of really, really fun and inspiring activities like rock climbing and fishing and painting. And they get to do those things with people who have had similar life paths to them, which I think is really important for someone who's had such a unique and challenging life path and of which their peers frequently don't understand. To get to meet people who are like them, I think I saw that it was really, really important to these kids. And also because it's in such a medically safe place, it has a medical facility and doctors and nurses there full time, and staff who are trained in at least first aid and basic basic first aid skills, that they get to do these things that they're typically prohibited from doing in a safe fashion. So many of these kids have never been able to like climb up a rock wall, for example, because most facilities just can't accommodate their needs, but there we do. And so it's a place where they get to kind of say yes instead of no, which is, I think, a really cool thing for them too. So I may have gone over 60 seconds. I could kind of
That's
keep
fine.
keep
I like
going
the
in summary.
explanation. I think the phrase making them do yes instead of where they usually get told no, I think that's a really awesome way to put it. So I thought we'll play a really brief game here with
Okay.
associated with Roundup River Ranch, because there are plenty of pictures of you doing camp leadership things there, but there are some pictures that out of context looks a little strange. So to put it to say
True.
the least. So I'm going to show you maybe 2 or 3 pictures. We'll see how the time goes. And I just want you to just kind of explain what the heck is going on here, and just kind of
Oh, I
say
can't
like
wait for this.
kind of the behind stories behind that. How does that sound?
No, that sounds awesome. I would love that.
All right, while I'm just saying up, listeners, if you want to see these pictures, go to the YouTube version of this podcast. Go to youtube.com, search Beyond the Books Austin. You'll be able to see the YouTube version there with all these incredible pictures. Okay, here's the first one. So it looks like here you're wearing a red, white, like poncho kind of thing, a sombrero, and I think that's just Snorlax on the name tag.
It does, yeah.
So what's going on here? This is a lot.
Oh man, to explain this. So I'll say quickly too that I love this. Yeah, I love this, and I love camp because it brings out the silly in me. You know, like this is just absurd and ridiculous, but it's so fun to just kind of connect with that younger version of yourself, and kind of feel free of your inhibitions that you're not supposed to walk around with a sombrero and whatever that shawl thing I'm wearing is. But anyway, what's actually going on here? We're playing a game around camp. We're making up Pokemon Go.
Oh,
And so
awesome.
yeah. So like I was quote unquote hiding. I was not in a really difficult hiding spot from my campers, and the other counselors in my campers were set with the task of finding me, who was going to be their Pokemon that would represent them in the battles up ahead. So they came out, they found me. Clearly, I look like Snorlax there. But as with how things often go at camp, when you don't have the materials to make yourself look as you're supposed to fit the character, you just make yourself look ridiculous. So that's what I did. So they found me. I was pretending to be Snorlax asleep, and they awakened me into a passion, just ready to battle for them. So they're walking me back to the battleground now, and the battleground is just a game called Gaga Ball. So if you've never been to camp, it's a really fun game where you're in this little arena and you have a bouncy ball basically, and you're just patting it with your hands, and it's soft, trying to hit the opponent below the knees with the ball. And if you win, or if you hit them, then they're out and you win. And so each cabin was grabbing their Pokemon and taking them back there. And so they're leading me back now to Gaga Ball, where I will say I was the champion. So
hey, there you go.
So they didn't know at the time, and actually it was really funny because they saw me and they're like, "Oh, Snorlax!" And I was like, "Guys, I'm gonna be good." Like,
that's hilarious. All right, well, here's the next picture that I kind of want to share here. Give me a second here. Hope you're enjoying going down memory lane a little bit here.
Always, man. Yeah, this brings my joy out for sure.
So this one's terrifying. So this one, you're kind of, it looks like that you are, I don't know, hyping up, or maybe like, someone snuck out in the middle of the night. You're kind of like reprimanding them, or I don't know what's going on here, but your veins are very pronounced in this picture here. Your neck veins are. So what's happening here?
Lots of intra-abdominal pressure. No, we're not talking about med school. No. So yeah, this is not how we punish kids at camp, I promise. But it is a ridiculous skit.
Okay.
At the beginning of camp, we always have this campfire skit, and you can't see, but basically directly behind me, there would be a campfire there that we would roast s'mores on. And in between each cabin getting to go up and roast s'mores, we would just do some ridiculous skits and songs. And this is one that I did pretty much every week, where it's kind of hard to explain, but basically you just have different counselors kind of acting out different things. And it's like if I were not a camp counselor, that's what I'd be if I were not a camp
Oh
counselor. And
yeah.
I turn around and I'm like a truck driver, I would be. And I'm just singing as loud, literally as loud and as gritty as I possibly can. Like, oh dear, get the silly thing in gear. And my veins, you could tell that I'm putting everything into it. And it's clearly just absurd, but it always got a good amount of laughs. And I had a fun time doing it.
Yeah. That's awesome. I think it goes back to like being able to be silly, be able to play a character. I think that's really awesome that camp really brings out kind of the not so serious side because life is so serious. It's nice to
Yeah.
have the not so serious parts come out every once in a while.
Yeah, and I think it's really neat to do it in a place where you're bringing together a lot of people on centering around a serious thing. There a lot of
Mhm.
them are facing life-threatening illnesses, and you're trying to bring together a lot of people who've had to be really serious at a really
Mhm.
young age and have serious things going on, and trying to show them that they can still be silly too. And so I think that knowing that really inspires the counselors to try to be as silly as they can be to just promote that open environment and that place for just fostering joy.
Gotcha. I have one more picture for you. So
All right.
three is a good number. And I noticed there are a lot. It's camp, right? So there's gonna be a lot of messy games that kind of go on here. So I just kind of want an explanation of this one. Is this like the ice bucket challenge? Are you just getting just was it just a hot day and you just need to cool off a bit? What's going on here?
Yeah, so this is it's always hot in the summer in Colorado in the mountains. So this is always refreshing here, but we're playing Silly Olympics where we have just several different areas where you can go where you do go around to with your cabin and just do ridiculous silly things. So here in particular, we have that bucket behind me filled with sponges and filled with ice water and sponges and balls that just absorb water and water guns, and there's really no objective here other than just to have fun and just be silly. So we all had paint on us before this, so it was actually perfect that you get to kind of wash the paint off. And so my fellow cabin counselor there is, I guess, rinsing my head off. But that's just a snapshot of the absolute free for all war going on with everybody just getting everyone completely soaked.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for playing this game with me. Again, I hope it's a nice trip down memory lane. But I know we could talk about camp for hours, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not big enough where I have that kind of technological um, size, I guess. So I guess I kind of want to wrap it up with this question because I was a camp counselor too for
Yeah.
one summer. Well, first of all, when was the last time you were at Roundup River Ranch to kind of preface this
So
question?
yeah, the last time I was there was just a little over um, a year ago. I actually went out there for a family camp. So they
Hmm.
have family weekends where the kid with a serious illness and his siblings and parents come out. I was there for one of those weekends actually with our classmate Trevor. So
Hmm.
I was there in like November, I believe it was, of last year
Hmm.
or of 2019. So
So it's been a little bit. So I kind of want to ask more about the impact it had on you personally, because obviously the impact on the kids is ginormous, and that's like the
yeah,
point of doing the camp in the first place. But I want to talk about the impact on you as the one kind of running the show there at camp, because what kind of I mean for me when I think about the camp I did, like yeah, stuff starts to fade away a little bit. You don't remember every single day that you were there. The 20-person counselor chat, whatever, it eventually
yeah,
dies down a little bit. Reunions are really cool, but it's not quite the same. But however, you do remember things that you learned from camp. Like it does make a huge impact on you, and you do remember like individual campers that kind of inspire you a little bit. So I guess I want to ask you personally, what kind of impact, and this is a very broad question, what kind of impact
yeah.
has Roundup River Ranch, had to look at my notes, Roundup River Ranch made on you personally that you can still remember today?
Yeah, I don't think the impact that it had on me can be overstated. I mean, it's been one of the most influential experiences on my life, and that's why I was there for 3 full summers and a few other individual experiences because I just kept wanting to come back and get refueled again on the kind of inspiration it provided to me. But um, in particular, I think that anytime I'm facing something that is really difficult and maybe even so challenging that I'm like, can I even do that? Or I start to feel maybe hopeless about something. There's always a reminder from camp that it's possible for me to do whatever I'm worried about, because I just saw so many kids with less life experience, and such amazingly difficult setbacks, greater than those that I have experienced, um, persevere and still accomplish their goals and find joy and hope. And it's just a reminder that if they were able to do that, then why can't I do whatever it is that I'm up against. And there are so many individual stories that, as you said, a lot of them fade, but there are just some that just, well, I don't think will ever fade, that I can think about them and feel like I'm still there. And I can reflect on those and find that inspiration that I need. Um, and it's also been very influential on me with my decisions in medicine.
Hmm.
I know we're not on here to talk about medicine, but I'll make
That's all
it just a
right.
real
That's all
a,
right.
a real quick
Yes,
stint
that's all right.
that
That's all right.
and those that know me know that I I like a lot of different things in medicine. So when I go through different rotations, I've had a difficult time deciding what am I going to do with my life.
Hmm.
I can like this, I can like that, um, and the way I'm kind of leaning and have been leaning is just reminding myself of like what got me into medicine, and it was totally those kids, and the prospect of having a potential impact on their ability to live well, and that was found for sure by my own relationships and experiences with them, and just knowing how fulfilling it was to me to be able to provide them with some sort of support and inspiration in life, and to fill them up in some way in their life. But probably even more so by watching some of their doctors interact with them, because um, a lot of their physicians would be the ones that would come out to volunteer for the week. And it was just a really, really cool to see the relationships that they had a lot of times with their doctors. And I think probably the ones that come to camp are the ones that want to have really close relationships with their patients. Um, but it was just really inspiring to me to see the relationships they did have. And in particular, there's a pediatric radiation oncologist who would always come out, and um, you could work as a doctor there and volunteer as a doctor, which is amazing. But he would elect to be a cabin counselor instead, and not work as a doctor for the week, but just individually, one-on-one, just be with these kids. And you could just tell how much he really loved them and they loved him. And just, I can imagine how useful having a relationship like that would have been for those kids to undergo cancer treatment, to have someone like him in their life. And, I want to be that, maybe not to kids with cancer, maybe not, but to kids with some sort of difficult condition they're dealing with. I know that's what I want and what I value, and that's kind of helped me to kind of make my decision in what I'm going to go into, instead of giving too much thought to just like, well, I could enjoy this or I could enjoy that. Just reminding myself of what got me into it and what I value, and it's definitely that connection with those kids who are suffering a lot. So I could go on for hours, and so many more stories and angles on how it's inspired me and continues to affect me and how I think about it all the time. Um, but I'll keep it short for the sake of the audience who probably don't care as much as I
No,
do.
no, I think it's awesome to hear, because I think one of the special things about camp is that it's such a two-way street of like who it impacts. Like it impacts not only the participants who go to the camp, which by the way is free, if I'm correct
True.
here, for the kids, which is awesome. But it's also for the people who work there. It just makes such an impact. I mean, yeah, we talked about the silliness, we talked about the inspiration. It's camps like these that just make such an not maybe not tangible, like intangible impact on someone's like career decisions, or how they raise a family, or those kind of things. Like it lasts for years. So
Yeah.
I know the pandemic kind of sucked things out. I mean, I don't know. I assume the camp was not running last year because of the pandemic, but I mean, hopefully camps like such as these can continue in 2021, and continue to make new stories, new chapters, new legacies, both for the campers and the counselors that are there.
Absolutely, yeah, and I know that my camp did some online camp, which I think probably helped fill the gap a little bit, but it's not the
Mhm.
same as
It's
being
not the
out there,
same, right?
not at all. So yeah, I hope that they get the chance to return, and I hope that I get to be a part of it again.
Yeah. All right, let's finish off this podcast by mentioning a past podcast guest here on the show. And obviously, I'm talking about your girlfriend, Grace Rushton,
Yes,
which, by the way, awesome episode, season 1, episode 4. Please go check it out on Spotify or
go check
YouTube.
it out.
But, anyways, let's talk about Grace for a second. And I think for me, this is kind of a really cute picture of you guys, by the way. Um,
Thanks.
I think the one question or one of many questions, no, not many, but one of a couple questions I do want to ask is that the first time I really realized that you guys were together, it was when we were on the lake in Bloomington or near Bloomington, right? And that was very quick, like into the school year, like maybe a little bit over a month, maybe 2 months tops. So I guess I just kind of want to ask, like, there's a saying that like when you see someone you love, like you just know, like you know that this is the one, like you know that y- that there's something special there. Um, can you just kind of explain how you knew that Grace was going to be a pretty special person, um, not only during your medical school years, but just in life as well?
Yeah, yeah, good question.
Mhm.
And it was pretty quick. I think that we had a quick spark for sure. There's no doubt about that. And I think that um, it helped that it just so quickly became clear that we did kind of share a lot of the same values and a lot of the same um, views of what we wanted our life to look like, and no doubt there's at least some overlap there by the fact that we're both in medical school. I think that gives you a quick, obvious, and easy connection. But I think that we just kind of had an easy way about getting to know each other and just getting on with each other. And no doubt we connected quickly over our passion for kids. I had my camp experience. Grace has had IUDM and knew that she wanted to do pediatrics. And I think that there's a lot of kind of easy connection there. But I also think that, getting to know Grace, it just became obvious to me that she was a very, very caring and sweet soul, and would be an amazing person in general, and someone that I wanted to uh, have play hopefully a special role in my life. And I've been lucky that that's been the case. And yeah, I think that it mostly just kind of started from a really easy, quick spark. It just things just kind of flowed very, very naturally between us. It wasn't difficult for us uh, to chat and enjoy being around each other. And I think that allowed things to kind of just move uh, very nicely.
Yeah, that's a key, right? It felt easy. It felt really smooth. There was no like tremendous amount of efforts that you guys
Yeah.
had to do to like make conversation, for example. It just felt very natural. It felt very organic, and really happy for you guys. And I wish for many happy years to come. The last thing I want to do in this interview, I talked to Grace for a little bit before doing this interview, and
Okay.
I asked her what was a particular date that was really memorable with Austin. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the audio clip that Grace was nice enough to send me, and just kind of
Okay.
get your live reaction to it. And then at the end, we'll kind of add your comments to wrap up this interview. How's that sound?
That sounds great. Yeah.
All right. So give me a second here to set this up. Hopefully the sound still works. Can you hear that or no?
I can just hear you. I can't hear the audio right now.
Okay, give me just a second. Okay, I see the problem. Give me 1 second here. Uh, yeah, this is fine. All right, I'm going to share my screen real quick.
Okay.
Make sure I'm sharing computer sound. Yes, I am. All right, so I asked her, what was a particular date that you found really memorable of Austin? And this is what she had to say.
So, for my birthday this year, Austin planned a little day trip date back down to Bloomington, which is where we originally met, in a place that's just really near and dear to both of our hearts. So, it was a beautiful fall day, the perfect setup because I love fall. So, we got to start out by going to the winery down there and just enjoying that setup outside. Then we went to a coffee shop that we spent a ton of time at studying during the first years of med school, and actually conveniently the place where we had our first date. So got to enjoy some lattes there, and then took them and kind of just strolled around campus and saw the beautiful fall scenery down there. And then we went over to, there's like the fire tower lookout point where you can kind of go above the tree line and just like enjoy all the fall foliage, which is one of my very favorite spots in Bloomington. And then capped it off with just a super nice dinner at another restaurant that we really love. So it was just a super thoughtful day, a good just like trip down memory lane of just a place that we love so much, and was just a super special day for us.
All right. So, um, there's what Grace had to say there. So, just kind of going your reaction. Is that kind of what you expected, or are you a little surprised that that was her a date that she selected? What's your reaction here?
Yeah, I wasn't sure which date she'd go with. I think that there were kind of several options I could have seen her going with, but that being something that was kind of, I think, especially both of us in more recent, one of the more recent things we did that was kind of really fun and neat. I guess I'm not too surprised that she went with that, and I think you can hear too that she's just kind of a very sentimental person, and I am too, so I love that about her. But we both definitely enjoyed that day, I think, because we just kind of got to go back and remind ourselves of kind of the places where we like first connected, and also just the places that we spent a lot of our time during important years of our early relationship, but also just difficult years in medical school. And those were the kind of places that, well, a lot of times were our respite, Hopscotch and Oliver or the Fire Tower. And so it was really neat to kind of remind ourselves of the highlights of those 2 years, which were at times very difficult, but also had some really special moments too.
Well, you guys are an adorable couple, I must say. You guys have a pet dog too, which is pretty awesome. Go listen to Grace's episode. She's an amazing human being, and get to know her more because she's awesome, and we definitely want to definitely want you guys to get to know her. All right, Austin, we did it.
Yeah.
We did it, man. Thank you for being an awesome interview host. I think this is the perfect kickoff to season 2 of Beyond the Books. And yeah, I think we've smashed the mission that you are definitely more than just a medical student. So I just want to thank you again for an awesome interview.
Thank you, Alex. I mean, I appreciate you asking me about all those things that are important to me and reminding me of all those other aspects about myself too. So I appreciate you engaging in this mission and bringing me along for part of the ride. So I can't thank you enough.
All right, guys. All right, listeners, alongside Austin Dukes, my name is Alex Chong. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Beyond the Books. And we're going to sign off for now, but hope you join us for the next one. Thank you and have a great day.
You're listening to Beyond the Books with your host, Alex Chong.